How are you?
Okay. Zoomed you, not zoomed you. We did the computer thing last week and it didn't work.
It didn't?
We got only a picture of you, got a picture of this, nothing else.
What do you mean?
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to get.
What else do you want?
Well, we
The
couldn't
picture,
see
you,
the.
you can't talk back, that's all.
Well, no, you have to send me a chat. That's how you get questions.
Not on the thing. How we could put it. Oh, that wasn't the MID, it was the service. It was the, never mind, it was the temple.
Exactly. Well, and part of it was because there was an Israeli officer who they have him on tape, and he's saying, "Look, this is the greatest time. I'm so happy." And it's like, "Oh God."
But some of these press, they're so stupid, they ask some stupid questions.
Yes, sometimes they do, for sure.
Like someone gets shot. Are you upset that you got shot? No, I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
I'm tickled that I got shot.
Yep.
Gotta stop using it. You can talk, Bill. I always interrupt what he's doing.
Yes, go for it.
Texting. Yeah, we were here, we were just on the cameras up above there.
Ah, good.
Getting my television set to do that meant typing in each letter by selecting them, it was a pain in the neck, but yeah. You saw you on the big screen and sat in our two big chairs.
Good.
But we woke up late, we didn't realize you were gonna be late too, or we'd have been here.
Tell him the truth. I'm scared to go anywhere more than 10 Jews in one place.
They're looking at,
Israel. Where were we studying last time? That's what this is a continuation.
certainly not, oh, here we go.
Jordan?
Syria, yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, well, because Israel's long and skinny. Syria, boy, we got enemies all around us. Jordan is Palestine. How you doing? Good?
Gobble, gobble.
Israel living.
I have been, I'm sure.
I've been in Turkey, but Muslim. Syria, Jordan.
We know more or less what it is.
That's right.
Did draw in the little corner that said Philistines.
We have to.
I
We have
think
to.
it's funny that that land actually never belonged to Israel.
Oh, the Gaza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone cut
People
me
don't
off,
love it.
and
People just think they want to take it back.
you know what I did?
He was surrounded by
No,
Israel.
I don't, no, Charles, you know me better than that.
Yep.
I don't disagree. But I did honk my horn about 5 times, and you know what they did? They ran. They know
Israel's coming up with the
anybody
right answer now.
can have a gun.
No,
That's the way Tyrell.
they're picking on
As I say to all my friends, my personal life is really doing well, but my global life is not doing very well. Huh?
Understood.
Huh?
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, for all of us,
Well, not all of us. I mean, I have,
many of us.
yeah, I have secular Jewish friends, and they wouldn't give a crap what's going on. I mean, I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Huh?
I I'm perfectly fine with, there'll be a ceasefire when you release the hostages.
I'm not fine with that.
I'm okay with,
I'm
Give
just
up the
telling you,
hostages.
and I respect your,
and then we can talk ceasefire. But
because I've been watching a lot of programs on Zoom with people like Dennis Ross, you know, and a ceasefire will keep,
give them time to rearm,
yeah,
regroup.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm not, no, it's total destruction, and the hostages, and he mentioned it, I watch other programs, are very important, but there's even a higher calling. And I know it's easy for me to say because I'm not a family, huh?
That's Hatikva, in case anybody wants it. It's all like a better word.
That's a young people. They went in, they did it, that's it. Yeah, they came up. Right back, thank you, ma'am. Well, you hurt a lot of people and you finish it fast. This is very slow for me.
No. I don't know how many years we bombed Berlin before we took it. We did.
I wasn't around that. What year?
1944.
My mother was a young lady.
And then we have Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and you're talking about, innocent civilians, yes.
Okay, we'll wait one more minute and then we'll get started.
You know,
See if anyone shows up later.
he who is without sin can cast the first stone.
Morning, Lisa. Very well, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. You as well. So this morning we're going to talk about Lebanon. Lebanon. And we have some stuff to discuss. So what I first want to do today is present Lebanon history secularly. And then once we understand who was in charge during what time, then we can plug in Jewish history in Lebanon. All right. So the first thing that I want to excite you with today, because I think this is truly extraordinary. Let me read you. Researchers analyzed DNA extracted from 4,000-year-old human remains to reveal that more than 90% of Lebanese ancestry is from ancient Canaanite populations. Scientists have sequenced the entire genomes of 4,000-year-old Canaanite individuals who inhabited the Near East region during the Bronze Age, and compared these to other ancient and present-day populations. The results, published in the American Journal of Human Genetics, suggest that present-day Lebanese are direct descendants of the ancient Canaanites. The Near East is often described as the cradle of civilization. The Bronze Age Canaanites, later known as the Phoenicians, introduced many aspects of the society that we know today, including alphabet and things like that. Okay, so this is the Mediterranean Sea, And this area especially was designated in biblical times to be the area of the Phoenicians. Okay, just out of curiosity, does anybody know how did the Phoenicians? They were sea people, right? And they spread their culture around. They were sea people, and they spread their culture around. Good.
They spread the alphabet in particular.
They spread the alphabet around in particular. Good. And they worshipped. They did worship Baal as well as other gods. And who was a very famous, in our tradition, Phoenician queen? She was married to a really bad northern king. And his descendants killed the white whale in Moby Dick. So who was that queen? That was Jezebel. She was a Phoenician queen from Tyre. And so part of the whole problem was that she enticed Ahab to worship idols. Right? And that made Ahab a truly horrible king. She also was very clearly the power behind the throne. She wore the pants in the family for sure. Remember, we have a very, very famous story in the Talmud about Nabal. He has a vineyard located right next to Ahab's palace. And Ahab wants that land because it's really good land for growing wine. And so he goes over to Nabal and he says, look, can I buy your land from you? I'll give you a fair price. I'll give you a nice price for it. I'd like to have your land to grow wine. And Nabal says, I don't think so. I don't want to sell. And Jezebel gets home. and Ahab tells Jezebel what happened. And Jezebel went crazy. She goes, are you nuts? You're the king. Go take the land. Don't ask anything. Go take it. And so Jezebel cooks up a big scheme where Nabal is murdered, and Ahab takes the land. So she's the power behind the throne. Anyway, she's Phoenician. And so the Lebanese are so if we say, well, whatever happened to the Canaanites? The modern day population of Lebanon is, to a large extent, share same genes with ancient Canaanites. Okay. All right, let's start with who has ruled Lebanon over what periods of time, because that will be very important for us to understand what happened to Jews in Lebanon at various times in history. So, the Ottoman Turk Empire takes Constantinople and ends the Byzantine Empire in 1453. Now, let's just take 1 minute. We've gone through this before, but these things are hard to remember, even for me sometimes. So, let me go this way. When the Romans Empire is at its peak. It covers Europe, the Middle East, Turkey, everything. Okay. When Constantine comes to power in 300, Constantine makes an eastern capital to the empire in Constantinople, named after him, Constantinople, which is today Istanbul. And then there's a western capital in Rome. Rome has the Pope. The eastern half has a patriarch. Okay. Around 400 CE, invading armies end the western side of the Roman Empire because they take over. The eastern half continues, and it's called the Byzantine Empire. And the Byzantine Empire is in control of what we now call the Middle East, Israel, etc. Fast forward to the year 800 now. We started in 400 because that's when the western half ended. We go 400 years forward, and Charlemagne is appointed the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. What is that? It is the western half of the Roman Empire that has been reconstituted. Basically, Germany and a little bit of places around Germany. That's the Holy Roman Empire. And that continues all the way up till Napoleon in 1800. The eastern half, which had been the Byzantine Empire, was conquered by the Turks, the Ottoman Empire, in 1453. Are we all good with this so far? Anybody have any? Okay, that's really important to understand how Western Europe and Europe in general evolved differently from Turkey and the Middle East. So now we have, in 1453, we have the Holy Roman Empire on the western side, and now we have the Ottoman Turks on the eastern side. And the Ottoman Turks now are in control of Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, all of the Middle Eastern countries that we know today. Their boundaries weren't the same and everything, obviously, way back then. That's changed over time. But putting it under a modern perspective, the Middle East was, starting in 1453, under Turkish control, under Muslim control, under Islam. Now, what did we learn in our previous classes about Jews who lived under Christianity versus Jews who lived under Islam? A little bit better under Islam. Very good. Why? I'm going to get in trouble if I don't do this.
Okay, I'll repeat. The Muslims thought of the Jews as people of the book. So essentially, they were not fully citizens, maybe second-class citizens, but they were not bothered physically by the conquering.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so under the Pact of Umar, the Islam thought of Jews as second-class citizens, really. They were called dhimmis. Yes, very good. Dhimmis. Were they Shiite or Sunni? Okay. So let's talk about that for a second.
I don't think at that point in history there were divisions between Sunnis and Shiites.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. So Cecil said, I don't think at that point in history there were divisions between Sunnis and Shiites. We're talking 1453. So let's have this quick conversation for a second, because we see it all the time in the news, and I'm sure there's at least one of or two of us in this room who don't know the difference in how it happened. When Muhammad dies, Muhammad lives when? 600. So think 600 is Muhammad. That's 600. 600 is Muhammad. Muhammad dies. He does not leave a successor. Who takes over? The community elects Muhammad's father-in-law, the father of his wife, father-in-law Abu Bakr, and he becomes what we call the first rightly minded caliph. And there are 4 of them. After Abu Bakr dies, then the community elects Umar. After Umar dies, the community elects Uthman. And after Uthman is assassinated, the community elects Ali. Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman were fathers-in-law and brother-in-law of Muhammad, not blood-related. Ali was his blood-related cousin. Okay, and here is where the controversy begins. Because for the Sunni Muslims in the world, their leader is elected by the community, by the elders. For the Shia Muslims, their leader must be a direct blood descendant of Muhammad. It's not elected, it's who is the highest up blood relative of Muhammad. This is the big controversy between Sunni and Shia. So then the question becomes, okay, so who is Sunni and who's Shia? This is pretty easy. Iran, Iraq, and Bahrain are Shia. Everybody else is Sunni. Hezbollah is Shia. But everyone else is Sunni. So, like 85% of the world's Muslims are Sunni Muslims. So, for instance, Saudi Arabia, that's Sunni, but they practice an extreme form, Wahhabism, of Sunni Islam. Okay, so back to Rose's question, which was, were the Turks Sunni or Shia? Sunni. Absolutely. Okay, so when we talk today, about, well, the Shia militia or the Shias, they support this, they support this, they support. So if you look at the peace treaties Israel has made, right? Jordan, Egypt, and ostensibly through the Abraham Accords, Morocco, right? They are what kind of Muslims? They are Sunnis. If we look at the countries who are dead set against Israel's existence, Shia. The Palestinians, as we refer to them, are Sunni. Hezbollah is Shia. Lebanon, at the moment, is basically 50-50, Sunni and Shia. But Lebanon has a huge Christian population. And we're going to talk about why that is in just a couple of minutes. But they have an enormous Christian population, mostly Maronite Christians. Maronite Christians meaning an Eastern group of Christians who support the Pope all the way here on the West. So remember, the Byzantine Empire over here, which had all of this, did not recognize the Pope. This is a group of Eastern Christians, Eastern Catholics actually, who align themselves with the Pope. That's very unusual, because what do Eastern Christians align themselves with? The Patriarch in Eastern Orthodox Christianity. Armenian Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, okay. And when did that split happen? Eastern Orthodox versus Western Catholic? That happened in 1054, and it's called the Great Schism. The Eastern half and the Western half formally break. The Eastern half does not recognize the authority of the Pope. And they broke over a very, for us, I think it's interesting, an interesting theological issue. So you know in Christianity there is the oh, I hate this senior Trinity. I was trying to think of tri, and all I could think of was triumvirate, and it's like, no. Trinity. Okay, we know. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Okay. And so in the Western half, in Catholic theology, the Holy Spirit comes from the Father and the Son. In the Eastern half, they disagree and they say, no, the Holy Spirit only comes from the Father, doesn't come from the Son. And anyone who says it comes from the Son is committing heresy. It's called the filioque. That's the big theological issue between the East and the West. And I'll share with you very quickly, because I think for all of us, it's like Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. This is like really kind of weird for us. We don't understand this concept. First of all, we do have Holy Spirit in Judaism, do we not? Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh is the holy wind or the Holy Spirit. When do we encounter Ruach HaKodesh? In the opening lines from Genesis. And the Ruach HaKodesh merachefet over the chaos, over the seas, right? So the Holy Spirit. Okay, so we have an idea of Holy Spirit. But how do you get 3 out of 1 or 1 out of 3? Or how does this work? Well, my Protestant minister friends, with whom I used to have breakfast all the time, explained it to me one day, because I said, I don't get this. I don't understand this. And they said, look, the easiest way to understand this is water is composed of an H2O molecule. That's what makes water water, H2O. But water exists in 3 different states. It exists as a liquid in water, it exists as a solid in ice, and it exists as a gas in water vapor. All of them, the essence of all of them is H2O. So, for Christians, the Trinity represents, all have the essence of God in different forms, as the Father, as the Son, and as the Holy Spirit. Okay, now I get it. Now that makes sense to me. All right, that split was called the Great Schism. All right, so if Lebanon is under Ottoman rule, then the rules for dhimmihs apply, which means, as Ziesel correctly said, Jews could exist along with Christians, and they could basically go about their lives without fear of being put to death, without fear of pogroms, without fear of being persecuted terribly. There was a bunch of stuff we couldn't do. We couldn't rebuild or repair synagogues. We couldn't ride a horse next to a Muslim because we would be higher. We had to wear some identifying clothing. We couldn't celebrate ostentatiously in the streets, anything like that. But by and large, we could exist fairly well, pretty peacefully, under Muslim rule. Unlike under Christianity, where we were persecuted, we were derided, we were excluded from guilds, we were excluded from everything. Wait.
The basic rule.
I have to get up every time.
The basic rule is that they had to be subservient.
Yes. Very good. The basic rule is they had to be subservient, yes.
Following up on my buddy here, Jewish businesses had to be below the sidewalk, so they would be, the Muslims would be over them, so to speak.
Yes, very good, very good, very good. So these were the rules of the Pact of Umar, and these rules were in existence by and large in Israel until when? Yes, until Israel becomes a state. Why? Because the majority population of the state of Israel, until 1947, 48, something in there, was Muslim. And it had been from the year 638. 638 all the way to 1948, mostly Muslims lived in Israel and Jerusalem. And there were definitely some Jews there, definitely. But they were a very small minority. They were mostly studious Jews, looking Talmud, et cetera, But it wasn't until the Aliyot began in 1881 that Jews started coming to Palestine, and then the Muslim Arabs got very upset. Why? Because little by little they were in fear of not being the majority population anymore. And of course, that in fact happens, and in 1947 we have the partition plan. The UN gives half the land to Israel and half the land to the Arabs, to the Muslim Arabs. Israel says, fine, we can deal with that, we're okay with that. The Muslim Arabs, the Palestinian Arabs, I have a very strong opinion about this. Palestinians are not a people. They happen to be Arabs, Muslim Arabs mostly, who lived in the land that is called Palestine. They don't have a separate culture, they don't have a separate language, they don't have a separate religion, and there's nothing that identifies them as a people. They are simply Arabs, Muslim Arabs mostly, who happen to be living on that territory. And the UN said, you get this amount. And Jews, you get this amount. We said yes, the Arabs said no, and we had a war.
When the partition was made, the land that we got was where we were supposed to get, we were the majority population in those areas.
Correct.
And so it's not like we were taking land away from them. But the problem is that we're in the dhimmis. And dhimmis are not supposed to have their own state. They're not supposed to be, this is, in their perception, this is their land, and this is like the worst thing that imaginable that can happen to
Correct.
Muslims.
And there is a doctrine in Islam that says if a land has been conquered by Islam and ruled by Islam, if it ever falls out of control by Islam, it must be returned to Islam. Now, they never say why that holds true for Israel but not for Spain, but they say it holds true for Israel. Yes, Cecil?
It is my perception that we have, it's not a simple thing. Look, when the first Aliyah in the late 19th century started, and Jews came and drained the swamps and established kibbutzim and moshavim, what happened is they needed labor. So Arabs from other countries came to work, and many of their descendants are today's Palestinians. So they were not there from time immemorial. They came as workers from Iraq and many other places, Syria, and that's the origin of this ganze Geschichte.
Thank you, thank you. So the Ottomans control, oh, sorry, yes.
I just wonder if you're going to mention about the fact the Ottoman Empire supported the Axis powers. It was part of that, and it broke apart, and that's, you know, it left
Yep,
all
coming up.
It left that area in disarray.
Coming up right this minute, coming up right this minute. So the Ottomans rule the Ottoman Empire goes from 1453 basically until when? 1918, very good, the end of World War I. And as Rosa correctly pointed out, the Ottomans supported the losing side, shall we say, and that's really, really, really important. How does World War I end? What happens to end World War I? The Treaty of Versailles, right. And before that, there was the Sykes-Picot Agreement, and that divided up the land of the losers. And the Russians get Western Armenia and Constantinople. Italy gets Anatolia, which is other part of Turkey. Palestine eventually comes under the British mandate. And in 1923, the League of Nations gives Lebanon and Syria to France. And so at that point in history, we have people who are living together, Muslims, we have Druze, we have Christians. I'll have to look into that. But remember, when we did, just last week, Libya, yeah, that there was a large Italian Jewish population there. So I think they migrated there, but maybe that was the reason. I'll have to look into that. Thank you. Italy ruled over what is now Ethiopia,
Yes.
or parts of it.
Right, until Haile Selassie became the emperor and the Italians left. They were they were escorted out, let's put it that way.
Great. Thank you. So in 1923, the League of Nations gives Lebanon and Syria to France. Now, this is a very interesting point. In 1926, the Constitution, the Lebanese Constitution, is ratified. And what does the Constitution say? It says that the government must share power between Christians and Muslims. It says the president of Lebanon must be a Christian. The prime minister of Lebanon must be a Muslim. And that has been in force up to this day. Up till right this minute, the president of Lebanon is a Christian, and the prime minister is a Muslim. There were several times in Lebanon's history, because of sort of chaotic developments within the government, that a Sunni Muslim served as both acting president and acting prime minister when they were between governments or when there was chaos within the government. But in general, since 1926, the president has been a Christian and the prime minister has been a Muslim.
I want to know which one is the ceremonial position and which one is the one with the political power.
So which one is the ceremonial position and which one is the one with political power? Well,
To my understanding, throughout the world, normally the power relates with the prime minister, and the president is a figurehead.
yes, that's true. Yes. By 1960, there was a Muslim majority in the country. The country was founded by Maronite Christians and Druze. But by 1960, there was a Muslim majority in Lebanon.
Rabbi,
Yes.
was a civil war in Lebanon, Christians against Muslims.
Yes, that's in 1975. We're getting there. But yes, you are correct. You are correct. So in 1943, Lebanon becomes independent. The last French troops leave Lebanon in 1946, 1 year before the partition plan, 2 years before Israel becomes a state. At that time in history, Beirut was considered the Paris of the Middle East. It was a gorgeous place, I am told. I remember once a while back, I had a Lebanese vocal student, a voice student, and he would tell me that Beirut was just the most beautiful place you could imagine in the Middle East. It was gorgeous.
Beirut was the fun capital of the Middle East.
The fun capital of the Middle East.
Of the Muslim Arabs of other countries who had the money.
Many of the Muslim Arabs of other countries would go to Beirut for the fun and the games. Yes, that's what I'm told. Yes. Yes. Why was it given to the French? World War I, at the end of World War I, the various conquered territories were divided up among the victors. And France and Lebanon and Syria were given to the French. Israel was given to the British. Palestine was given to the British for the British Mandate. And the other victors got other areas. And 2/3 of Hungary went to Romania. Okay, Lana.
There was a railroad along the coast of Israel. There was a railroad up the coast of Israel that would go into Lebanon because it was such a tourist haven, and the tunnel is blocked off by bricks and stuff. You can't go through. From probably 1948.
Yeah. Now, a very interesting fact. During and after the 1948 War of Independence, during and after the 1967 war, many Jews went to Lebanon. There was a huge influx of Jews to Lebanon following the 48 war and the 67 war. Unlike all the other Arab countries, which we have to talk about, where Jews were kicked out. In the 1960s, there was relative calm within Lebanon in terms of the Lebanese government and the Lebanese people. Not so much for Jews. There were anti-Jewish acts, but Lebanon at that time was basically stable. In 1968, there was a hijacking of an Israeli flight. There were shootings at Israeli flights. And in 1969, we have what's called the Cairo Agreement, which was brokered by Gamal Nasser. We spoke about Nasser last week in Arab nationalism. And it was basically an agreement between Arafat and the Lebanese government. Because there were large groups of Palestinians who were living in Lebanon. Many of them were Palestinians who either left on their own or who were kicked out of Israel. So, like I've said a number of times, we have to be intellectually honest about this as adults. 1948, the war happens. War is terrible. We're experiencing this right now. War is terrible. Any way you look at it, war is horrible. Lots of people die. And when the 1948 war started, the Arab nations said to the Palestinians, we are about to come in and run over Israel, and we are going to take it over. So my strong suggestion to all of you is get out now. After we destroy the army, after we take the land, then you come back in and reclaim your land. At the same time, Israel forced many of them out. And in the same way, almost every Arab nation kicked out its Jews. Large groups of Jews from all around the Arab world were kicked out. Their property was confiscated. Where did they go? Israel, because now they had a homeland. So there was a pretty big population exchange. That's true. It happened. And we can't say that it didn't happen, because it did happen. But as I've said many times, look, war is just, I'm sorry, hang on one second. Oh, okay. War is just hell. People die. Innocent people die all the time. We're seeing it right this second. And yes?
I've heard that 700,000 Jews living in Arab lands came to Israel. Is that number valid?
I've heard that 700,000 Jews living in Arab lands had to go to, were kicked out and went to Israel. Lana?
Okay. It was about 700,000 Arabs supposedly lost their land, but it was 1 million Jews that left the Arab lands. Now, there's an interesting difference between the two. What happened to the Jewish refugees? And compared to what happened to the Arab refugees. The Arab refugees were not absorbed into any of the Muslim lands. They were left in camps. Well, Jews were left in camps too, originally in Israel. They were in tents for a long time because there was, where do you put these people? I mean, they were,
Right.
So people were living in camp, and
They were absorbed into the
Right,
population.
They bettered themselves and went into the cities and farms and whatever.
Can you pass that over to
Just to amplify a little bit what Lana said, it was a political decision by the Arab leaders not to accept the Arab refugees that left what was Palestine, because they wanted to hold it against the nascent state of Israel.
Right.
Strictly political. They didn't care about their own people.
Very good. So in 1969, you had the Cairo Agreement between Arafat and the Lebanese government. Why? Because there were many Palestinian refugee camps, which is exactly what Lana and Zisel just said, within Lebanon. And this Cairo Agreement put the PLO in charge of those refugee camps, not the Lebanese government. In 1975, as Zisel correctly said earlier, there was a Lebanese civil war. It was a 16-year war, basically between Christians and Muslims. The IDF, there were Israel was in, Israel was out. We all know that in the 70s there were incursions into Lebanon by the IDF to put down rebellions, and we were stuck in Lebanon for a long time. It was a terrible situation. Israel was stuck in. In 1985, the Shia in Lebanon tried to rout the Palestinians from Lebanon. The Shia tried to rout the Sunni Palestinians from Lebanon. At this point today in history, Lebanon is 57% Muslim, and it's basically half Sunni and half Shia, right down the middle, and 36% Christian. That's a very large Christian population in a Middle Eastern nation. 36% Christian, 57% Muslim. But declining percentage-wise, and having less and less influence, and subject to anti-Christian events here and there. Yes? That's correct. Wait, you still here?
Both the makeup of Lebanon and the power changed. There was a civil war. Christians against, they were Maronite Catholics. That's the Christian population of Lebanon. And unfortunately, some of the big leaders got killed, and the Christians lost eventually. So,
And that's why the Muslims are the majority population now. Okay, now, having this large framework of who ruled Lebanon when, let's plug our history, Jewish history, into this timeline. So in 1911, I mean, Jews were in Lebanon from biblical times, right? Because this was part of all of the our biblical history. In 1911, Jews come from Italy, Greece, Syria, Iraq, and Turkey. So, Italy and Greece were in the western half of the empire, so they were ruled by Christian leaders. Syria, Iraq, and Turkey were in the eastern half, and so in 1911, who is ruling Syria, Iraq, and Turkey? The Ottomans are still, the Ottomans are still there. They don't lose until 1918. So in 1911, you still have the Ottoman Turks who are ruling those three areas. Why do lots of Jews, come to Beirut, which is right around the middle of the coast in Lebanon? Lots of Jews come to Beirut from all those countries because there was a lot of commercial growth. It was a port city. There was protection by the consulate for Jews, and there was relative safety and stability. Lebanon was an okay, stable, safe place basically for Jews to go, and there were opportunities in trade for Jews. So they went to Lebanon, and they went to Beirut. By 1899, the turn of the century, there were 25,000 Jews, 2,500 Jews in Lebanon. By World War I, there were 3,500. So we had this large immigration into Lebanon, but the Jewish community in Lebanon was basically an unorganized community. They had a chief rabbi, but basically there weren't a lot of institutions that held everybody together. In 1920, as we talked about earlier, it comes under French rule, and the Jews enjoyed a large measure of autonomy, meaning they could run their own affairs. And this happened all through medieval times as well. Both in Christian Europe and Muslim East, Jewish communities could make their own decisions regarding who can marry whom, kashrut. When it came to civil matters, let's say a Jew goes out and murders somebody, or a Jew robs from somebody. That the Beit Din didn't have authority over that, but they had authority over religious questions. This was all throughout the Middle Ages as well. By 1926, they had the Magen Avraham Synagogue, and in 1927, they opened a Jewish community school. And then, 1929, we have riots in Jerusalem. These are very, very well-known riots in Jerusalem. In 1937, the Grand Mufti is expelled, and he settles in Lebanon. He stays in Lebanon, and eventually his authority within the Palestinian community is taken over by the PLO. So the Grand Mufti played a very big part in World War II. He sat down and had a meeting with Hitler. And this is one reason why Great Britain enacts the White Paper of 1939. What is the White Paper of 1939? Good. Well, what it does is it says no more immigration to Palestine is cut off. The United States had done that earlier with the Johnson-Reed Congressional Act. Immigration to the United States was cut off. So, 1939, we have incredible hostilities in Europe. Hitler is very powerful. Jews have no place to go. They can't go to Israel, Palestine. It's cut off by the British. They can't come to the U.S. We cut them off in the Johnson-Reed Act. So they're stuck. In 1948, by 1948, Lebanon was the only country where the Jewish population had increased because they had more positive relationships with the European countries and because the Maronite Christians were tolerant of Zionism. So remember that Zionism was a huge problem for the Arabs. The Arabs had Arab nationalism. Zionism, our quest for a homeland, was in conflict, yes. And the Arabs did not want that at all. By 1948, there were 9,000 Jews in Lebanon. In the 1950s, bombings started, synagogues were bombed, persecutions. So by 1969, there's only 2,500. In 1975, we had the Lebanese Civil War, and there were 200 Jews who were killed in pogroms. 1,800 of them, of that 1,800 Jews left in 1976. Yeah. And the Lebanese Civil War, as we said, was between the Christians and mostly the Palestinians. And so the last census, was taken a while ago. But the last count, like in the 2000s, year 2000s, there were 20 Jews left in Lebanon. I have no idea today if there are even 20 left. But what had been a thriving population in Lebanon, certainly when Beirut was at its peak as a beautiful city in the Middle East, had a large Jewish community, and we were doing okay. And then not so much. Yes? Hezbollah, yes?
Are they controlling the government, or is it the other way around? Does the government...
So is Hezbollah controlling the government or the other way around?
Yeah, the other way around, because I know they're in the south of Lebanon and they attack Israel all the time. And I had heard that the government in Lebanon had tried to put a stop to that, but they seem so powerless.
Yes, Hezbollah is incredibly powerful, much more powerful than Hamas, much more powerful, which is why I think Secretary of State Blinken and many others are really trying to not have Lebanon and Hezbollah specifically get involved in this war, because that would present an enormous strain on the Israeli military.
What were the dates and circumstances of the Good Neighbor border?
What were the dates and of the Good Neighbor border? You know what? I don't know. I will have to.
I know it was there, and there were times when I was visiting that you could go closer to the border than you can now.
I will do a little research on that and find out for you. It's talking about, Joette was saying, what were the terms of the Good Neighbor border? I don't want to give you a wrong answer, so I need to do a little bit of research on that. Last question, Cecil.
Actually, it's not a question.
Oh, last
Somebody else can
comment.
ask my question. No, I just wanted to make a statement. Although the British put a clamp on Jewish immigration to Palestine, they wouldn't allow Jews to come to Palestine prior to 48. There was a very thriving illegal immigration that was bringing Jews into the then Palestine via all kinds of means and chartering ships, whichever way. And many of that effort was right here from the States as well, directing the illegal immigration.
Thank you, Cecil. Okay, everybody, have a beautiful week. Yes, Ray. Yes, I'm actually going to speak to Rosa right now about maybe doing that next week. Okay? Have a great week, everyone.
You too, Rabbi.
For Rabbi, in the late 60s, when I was in college, in Lebanon, Lebanon's Christian, and his son with me, and graduated, and he'd come and visit his family in Lebanon. It's a beautiful place, so safe. And then about a year later,
All hell broke loose.
hell broke loose.
I come here to get whelmed with history. I haven't spent a lot of time with my life, but I'm forgetful. But I'm whelmed. Well, a lot of it makes sense, but I can't retain it. I'm a little older than you. Well, about 90. So there you go.
some of them are key dates and some of them aren't. No, the thing that I used to, in school, I hated history. I absolutely hated history. Why? Dates, places, facts. They seemed unrelated to each other. They said just stuff I had to memorize. Well, no. If I were teaching history, there are pivotal dates. Okay?
Some people have more
Were,
dates than others.
okay,
Depends upon the issue you're talking about.
World War I, World War II, Civil War, Industrial Revolution, certain things that are taking place. Those are important dates. And I, as a teacher, would put on the board, these are the dates I want you to know. I might ask you a question about whether it happened before or after this date, and logically you should be able to figure it out if you don't know it. But, right, because I would memorize every goddamn because I don't know what's going to be on the test. I don't know which one's important. I got out of it because I was a math major, and I had a history exemption. And I was having problems with my major. I would have probably been better as a business major than I was as a math major. But if I change my major, I have to take history. And I didn't want to do that, so I just sort of just pressed on and struggled.
Excuse me, I was just remembering the other day that when I came home from school, I had history assignment. I would be up in my room and I would start reading the history. I would every day fall asleep. Every day.
Yeah.
I just hated it.
I hated it. No, but the turning point was cause and effect. I have a very logical mind. This happened because this happened. Like in art history, one of the most pivotal moments in modern art, 19th century art, was the invention of the camera. Because you could put realistic stuff, so the impressionists grew out of that, trying to create the feelings and the impressions and the blending, and you focus in on this, the focus on something else. They had to bring something else to the table, cause and effect. And I love that, because that's logic. I have now something I can hook onto rather than a miscellaneous date or place, or I don't know where the old town is, whatever is that. It's not history. History totally different. And my example of pivotal dates would be
Boker Tov, everybody. Let's get seated. I understand some people want some information. I'm going to start with information. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to be a taskmaster to get us to sit down. Good morning also to those of you who are virtual. I'll try to remember to use the microphone. I can't guarantee anything because I'm human. So I know that a number of people received emails yesterday about things going on at Adat Ariel. And so Susie asked me to speak about that, and I'll speak about that candidly with you, but then we're moving on into what we do. So a letter was sent out by our executive director yesterday because we had an incident at Adat Ariel. As you may know, we have a charter school here at Adat Ariel. It's a Los Angeles Unified Charter School. At the charter school, one of the teachers took it upon themselves, a first grade teacher, took it upon themselves to write vile, incendiary social media posts about the way that they felt about teaching at a public school in a synagogue that had Israeli flags up at it. And the things were beyond critical or beyond, they were insightful and dangerous and ugly, and suffice to say that that person, the school did the right thing, and that person is now on whatever leave as they explore this. So, however, the problem with the social media that person sent out is that they took a picture of the front of our synagogue that clearly has Ariel in the picture. And so what that vile, disgusting, evil person did is not only put children in our early childhood center in danger, but put the kids in the charter school in danger. And luckily, very luckily for all of us, we have much more security than you can see. And
Did they take it down? Did they take that text off?
I don't know what's been done with that because when I got here this morning, I had a meeting immediately, so I don't know what the update is. Rabbi Schuldenfrei and Eric Nicastro were on a trip that Joette was on, I know, going to the American South for a civil rights experience. So they just got back last night. I haven't talked to anybody. So this is all that I can tell you. I know that the authorities were notified about it. I know that our guards were dealing with it. I know that the principal of the school is dealing with it, and that's where we are. So we didn't have an active shooter on our campus. Nobody had to go into hiding. Nothing has occurred. But that if you received that letter that was kind of not understandable, that's what it was about. And here we are this morning because we are done being a community of people who have to hide. We don't hide. We were asked a number of weeks ago by the principal of the school when the Israeli flags were going to come down. And Rabbi Schuldenfrei said, never. If that's something that you don't like, too bad. This is Adat Ariel's perspective on things, and so we move on, and we know that we have a lot of really great assistance keeping us safe. In addition to that, we have lovely guards, every single one of them, but we happen to have two guards who are Jewish, one of whom I think comes from Israeli family background, and they would go to the mat for us in a different kind of way. So, what?
And we'll.
We will. So that's that. Susie, is that okay?
Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. And Am Yisrael Chai. And the point is, we are alive and we are ourselves thriving, and everybody else can literally go to hell. So good morning. Good morning. We are today doing what I told you that we would do last week, and Melinda and Warren, I hope it's okay, because I think you might have studied this once before, but hopefully, like me and everybody else, you forgot some of it already, so we can do that. I told you that last week, as we were talking about the relationships between Rabbi Meir and Bruriah, that the end of their relationship was one of turmoil and sadness and all of that. And I said, this shows up in the Talmud a lot of times. And so I'm bringing to you today a couple of stories that are both really interesting, but also have some similarity to that story. And first, we're going to say the blessing for learning. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. We immerse ourselves in words of Torah and we gain strength from it. So today I'm going to introduce you to my two favorite rabbis because of the story that they have. One of them is Reish Lakish. We'll learn about him this morning. And the other one is Rabbi Yochanan, a very quirky guy, which we'll be seeing in several different texts. And Joette, you've studied these texts too, so
Happy to do it again.
thank you. I've taught them many, many times, and I never get tired of these texts. So we'll distribute this today. Right now, I have a hope that we'll do two of them, but I don't know if we will. Maybe we'll just get through the one. So, and I want to warn you that I made 10 additional copies and had no time to staple them because yesterday and this morning were just crazy. So, here, and these are 2 pages. So you hand out 2 pages if they're not stapled. Okay. Oh wait, I need one. Give me that one, that beat up one. Thank you. Okay. So at home, folks, I know that Susie will email you copies of this, but we are going to read it aloud, so don't worry. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this. And I'd like for, if it's possible, I'd like for 3 people now to let me know who you are, who are willing to come and read this morning, and to come up and to just sit here so we don't have to go through all the rigmarole of people coming up. So 1, 2, 3. We'll do 4, and you can do it too, Joette. You can stay where you're seated, and you can too, Cecil, because you're close enough. So, okay. So, you have the Aramaic, and I want to reinforce that this is in the Talmud Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud, and this is Aramaic of the Babylonian Talmud. The Mishnah is in Hebrew, but we don't have that right this minute. And the Gemara, remember, Mishnah and Gemara make Talmud, is in Aramaic. One more time, don't look at it yet, folks. One more time. One more time. The I just want to make sure you remember this. Mishnah and Gemara make Talmud. The Talmud is written in Aramaic. Aramaic was the language of the street. It was tantamount to being like English in the time in which it was used. So this is what people spoke. The rabbis took the Mishnah that was written in Hebrew, and when they wrote the Gemara, the texts that come afterwards to try and update the material and talk about the material, they put it in a way that people who couldn't read Hebrew or understand Hebrew could use. So it's similar to us looking at something going, I don't speak Hebrew fluently, I can't read this, but looking at it and seeing the rest in English, the way we're doing. That's what Aramaic was.
So is Aramaic today spoken?
Aramaic, I don't think it is any longer. I think there are some pockets of people who speak Aramaic, but it's not a widespread language any longer. It came from Mesopotamia, so it's way back in the day. Okay, here we go. Let's go, come first. Okay. And I'll tell you when to stop because there are a lot of things that we have to discuss, so we're going to go bit by bit.
The Gemara relates, one day, Rabbi Yohanan was bathing in the Jordan River. Reish Lakish saw him and jumped into the Jordan, pursuing him. At that time, Reish Lakish was a leader of a band of marauders.
Okay, stop right there, just for a minute. Don't go further, because these lines are all important. Rabbi Yochanan was bathing in the Jordan. What do you do when you bathe in the Jordan back in the seconds? You take your clothes off. But if you are traveling and you're carrying something of value in one of those leather pouches that they used to have, that people still have, what do you do with that leather pouch? You say leave it with your clothes. You say go in the river with it. So Ziesel's correct. Nobody would leave that with their clothes on the side of the river because somebody is going to come up and get it. In this particular case, Reish Lakish, who was then associated with a Roman band of marauders, he's not Roman, but he was involved in no good activities, and he was himself part of a military corps. He jumps into the Jordan River to grab that off of Reish Lakish.
No, off of Rabbi Yochanan.
No, off of Rabbi Yochanan. Yes, you're absolutely right.
You do not abandon your weapon by itself.
Okay.
You just don't do that.
So you don't abandon your weapon, you don't abandon your money, you don't abandon anything, you just take it with you. Okay, so go on.
So Rabbi Yochanan said to Reish Lakish, your strength is fit for Torah study. Reish Lakish said to him, your beauty is fit for women.
Stop. Okay, so Rabbi Yochanan tries to do the good thing. He tries to say to this person who's trying to steal his money, look, don't do this. I know that you're a Jew. What you should be doing is studying Torah instead of being marauder and stealing things. Reish Lakish, still being the immature and somewhat problematic person that he was, basically did a nya-nya. The nya-nya was Rabbi Yochanan saying, you could do better than this. And then Reish Lakish is standing there going, you look like a girl.
Oh my God.
So it's just to be insulting back, just to be insulting back. Now, you don't know this yet, but if we get to this text, you're going to see why Reish Lakish said that. So, but we're not there yet. I told you I try to bring fun texts along with meaningful texts. Okay, so go just a little bit more.
Rabbi Yochanan said to him, "If you return to the pursuit of Torah, I will give you my sister in marriage, who is more beautiful than I am."
Okay, that's it for you. Just thank you for reading. Okay, so does Yochanan get really upset, or does he keep his cool? So he keeps his cool, right? He says, okay, say about me whatever you wish. And the way he does it is one that we have to hold on to. If you go back to doing the right thing, I'll let you marry my sister. And my sister is even more gorgeous than I am. So, what's the problem with this promise?
Sister had no say-so. Father gives to marriage, not the brother.
Well, yes. A father gives a daughter away in marriage, not a brother. There's a Jewish law question here. I know that this is part of what we were talking about when we started with the women. The Jewish law question is, can somebody else decide who a woman marries in those days of the Talmud? And the answer is no. She absolutely has to agree. So lest we have biases about ancient Jewish law, they were probably the most respectable set of laws with regard to treatment of women in these cases than almost any culture anywhere had. You could not force a woman to do these things. There are other things you can't force a woman to do, which maybe we'll do some texts on later, but you can't force a woman to do this. So, Joette, want to come up and use a mic?
Reish Lakish accepted upon himself to study Torah.
Okay, we've got that, right? We don't have to say any more about it. He says, oh, okay, that sounds like a good deal.
Subsequently, Reish Lakish wanted to jump back out of the river to bring back his clothes, but he was unable to return.
Just stop right there, because this is the commentary on the commentary. So see where the dark things are, the dark words? That's what's really in the Gemara. The others are kind of an interpretation that doesn't come from the Gemara text. So all we have in the Gemara text is somebody wanted to jump back and then tried to bring back his clothes, but he was unable to return. So now you can read the rest of it.
He was unable to return as he had lost his physical strength as soon as he accepted the responsibility to study Torah upon himself.
Okay, so let's deal with that for a minute. What does Reish Lakish have on the side of the river? His clothes, but also in that particular case, the commentaries say that even though Ziesel's probably right, you don't want to leave something on the side of the river, he did leave some of his heavy armament. He didn't have a gun, a sword, and what's this called? Shield. So the idea is he goes out of the river, he wants to put his clothes back on, but when it comes to those things, he can't pick it up. Why not? Yes, because he lost his strength, but it's mental. Okay. I'm now with God, with Hashem, and I'm taking in a different path?
I think this is really allegorical. It really, I think that this statement on the sheet of paper is allegorical. He lost his strength is an euphemism to say he's not going to be the same scoundrel that he was before.
Okay, he's not the scoundrel that he was before. He's given that up. I think it's funny because when we talk about boys in yeshiva throughout the years, we think about these pale, kind of weak, sort of wonderful boys who spend all their time inside studying. So when I hear this text, this is not what they meant, but when I hear this text about Reish Lakish, I go, already? He's already weak from studying Torah? But no, you're right. He gave it up, and it's symbolic that he can no longer pick up those weapons. So he has another goal in life. Keep going, Joette.
Rabbi Yochanan taught Reish Lakish Bible and taught him Mishnah and turned him into a great man.
Okay, go on one more line.
Eventually, Reish Lakish became one of the outstanding Torah scholars of his generation.
That's true. That's not actually in the Gemara. But so now you've got this situation where Rabbi Yochanan, the guy who kind of turns Reish Lakish around, becomes his what? His mentor, right? He becomes his mentor. He stays with him through all of his learning. Rabbi Yochanan is a quirky guy, but he's one of the most profoundly wise rabbis of the Talmud. So he's got a great teacher. He does it, he gets it, and Reish Lakish himself turns into an outstanding Torah scholar. Thank you, Joette. Who's next? Shirley, thank you.
Eventually, one day, the sages of the study hall were engaging in a dispute concerning the following
Baraita. Do you remember I just told you a couple of weeks ago what a baraita is? Anybody know? I know. Why would you keep these things in your head? I don't blame you. I mean, it took me 40 years to remember all these things. So, yes, Melinda? Oh, okay. It's a story that teaches a lesson that is not what? Not necessarily in the body. Wasn't necessarily originally in the body of the text.
Would that be like a fable?
In Midrash has two kinds that I told you about. Were stories and law. This is not Midrash, but it's important for you to hear this. So don't keep reading on and on and on, because it's important for you to be here now, they used to say in the 70s, right? So, the Baraita is a piece of Jewish text that probably came from a book of text that is no longer known. The book is lost, but the quotation isn't, and so it gets placed in the middle of the rest of the Talmudic text, but it doesn't come originally from that text. So they are engaging in a dispute concerning that text. And I can tell you something else about that too, but keep going.
With regard to the sword, the knife, the dagger, and I don't know how to pronounce that.
Don't worry about that.
Okay. The spear, a hand sickle, and a... Let me turn this over.
Harvest.
Oh, here we go. And a harvest sickle, from when are they susceptible to ritual impurity?
Okay, so just for a minute, the rabbis in the Talmud talk about these things all the time. when is an oven pure? We've got another great text about that. This is when are these things that could be weapons, right? Even though they're harvest, sickle, and that kind of thing, they're sharp weapons. When do these things become ritually impure? Under what conditions would you have to rededicate them, re-clean them, re-immerse them? And they're having an argument about that. It's completely irrelevant that they're having the argument about it, except for one thing. So read the one thing.
It is from the time of the completion of their manufacture, which is the Baraita with regard to metal vessels.
Where are you?
Which
the
is-
Baraita
I'm sorry, which is
answers. The Baraita answers.
With regard to metal vessels in general. These sages inquired, and when is the completion of their manufacture, Rabbi?
Okay.
Manufacture.
So stop right there. So they're saying, when does this become ritually impure? You know how things happen when have you ever been to a metalsmith? You know, like been to one of those things where that it goes back in time. Blacksmiths. Yeah. So they're going bang, bang,
Yeah.
bang, 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 bang with metal on metal, and they make this thing. And so some of the rabbis say that when you have the completion of the manufacture, that's when it becomes ritually impure. And what do you have to do with it after that? You put it in water, and it goes tss, right?
fizzles, yeah.
Okay. And then the other one is, and when is the completion of their manufacture? Did you read that yet?
No.
No. Go on. Okay, go ahead. These sages inquired.
It is from, Rabbi,
These
it is
sa-
from the
no, these-
scout. Where are these I lost it.
The
It is
sages
from the-
inquired.
We said that. And I read that. Oh, and when is the completion of the manufacture? Rabbi Yonahan says it is from when one fires these items in the furnace. Rabbi I'm sorry, I'm off today. Reish Laisha said it is from when one scours them in water after they have been fired in the furnace.
Okay, so Reish Lakish says it's when you go into the water, and Rabbi Yochanan says it's when you put it in the furnace. It matters little to us. What only matters is what happens next. So thank you. Thank you for reading, Shirley. So, Zisel? Yep. You're on. So we're at right here, Rabbi Yochanan said to Reish Lakish. Do you see where that is?
Rabbi Yohanan said to Reish Lakish, a bandit knows about his banditry. That is to say, you are an expert in weaponry because you were a bandit in your youth.
Okay, stop right there. So what we have is a terrible situation here. They have an argument over some, impurity issue in the house of study. And what is the first thing that Rabbi Yochanan does?
You used to be a bandit.
You used to be a bandit. Now, in Jewish law, we have a very, very significant thing. Now, Reish Lakish wasn't a convert, but in texts that we study about converts in Judaism, what we learn is once somebody becomes Jewish, you may never, ever, ever bring up to them that they were once not Jewish. If they want to say something about it, fine. But you cannot be the one who goes to them and says, you used to be, yeah. So, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, what happened was he contradicted his teacher.
He contradicted his teacher, and his teacher got mad, and Rabbi Yochanan's a quirky guy to begin with. However, it's very important that you know this. Like, do you know how many times during Jewish history, for example, particularly if we take a look at 50s, 60s, 70s, people would talk a lot about people who converted to Judaism. And sometimes, I don't know whose that is, but maybe we can stop it. What? She's trying. Okay, good. Thank you. So we know this. All of us know this. We're of a certain generation where we know that people used to say, oh, that person, wasn't Jewish originally, and sometimes people weren't accepted. Well, it's the same thing in this text. What Rabbi Yochanan has done is he has reminded somebody of their past, and you are not allowed to remind that person of their past. So he had taught him, brought him out of all of this, and then, bam, first time he gets annoyed. Anybody have any comments about this?
I read it the opposite way. I read it that Rabbi Yochanan is giving him respect. Oh, well, actually, you should know about weapons.
I mean, if I were sitting there and I was Reish Lakish, right? And I had spent all this time trying to get to, I can't even pick up my darn weapons when I get out of the river. So I would be okay if Rabbi Yochanan had said to me, look, I know that you've had a lot of learning and knowledge about these things. But it's different when somebody says, you used to be a criminal. You know about these things. And I don't even know whether Reish Lakish would have liked it if he brought it up at all. So somebody, yes.
Comparing it to the beginning of this story, Rabbi Yochanan showed him a lot of deference, even though he was being insulted. He was calm and cool, and here over a petty matter, he lost his cool in the most horrible way.
So let me speak to that. One second. You're still on, but just one second.
No, but I wanted to make a comment.
Okay, I'll make the comment, then I'll hand it to you. It's different when Rabbi Yochanan was clearly the superior. He was doing a mitzvah for a poor schnook, right? But once Reish Lakish becomes a rabbi of note, then it's more of a challenge to Rabbi Yochanan when Reish Lakish is correct. Mrs. Ziesel, you wanted to say something? Did you want to say something?
This may be a comment, but it says here, you are an expert in weaponry because you were a bandit in your youth. That is demeaning. You can say you are an expert in weaponry and stop right there.
Yes.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
The other is opinion and is insulting.
Correct. So, since you did that, keep going.
Okay.
After that sentence.
Reish Lakish said to Rabbi, so sorry. Reish Lakish said to Rabbi Yochanan, what benefit did you provide me by bringing me close to Torah? There, among the bandits, they call me leader of the bandits. And here, too, they call me leader of the bandits.
Okay, stop right there. Remember that the only words that are actually in the Talmud are the ones that are black, bolded, and not gray, but you're getting the interpretation here. So, can't you just feel Reish Lakish? Like, he changed his entire life around. He spent years learning, and it all comes down to, you're still, I still look at you as being a bandit. So what he said is, I already had status, and now you're trying to give me the same status, but it's an insult. What did I do all of this for? Yes. If people are going to come and grab the mic, this isn't your fault, but if people are going to come grab the mic and you want to do that, get close so we don't.
I think that the laws against slander can be based on this, because it really can cause people to turn away from Jewish learning or Judaism. This is not a small thing.
Yes. You'll see even more, if you haven't already read up through everything, that it gets even worse. So go on, Zisel. Rabbi Yochanan said to him.
Okay. Said.
Right after the word bandits.
Okay, hold on. Where do you say?
Here, right here.
I was elsewhere. Okay, thank you. Rabbi Yohanan said to him, I provided benefit to you as I brought you close to God and under the wings of the divine presence.
Okay, stop right there. Now let's do the Rabbi Yochanan stance. I'm the one who brought you back to God. I'm the one who made it possible for you to now be under the wings of the Shekhinah. Shekhinah is another way of describing God. You owe me. I did great things for you. Don't criticize me. I mean, can you imagine? This is why I love Talmud so much. I mean, all of us, without actually talking about it, could have read through this whole thing and only had a minute understanding of the real people involved in this, right? It's amazing that they give all this to us. These are two great scholars to be respected, and Talmud does not hesitate to give us a human warning. It's wonderful. Aren't we great? We're so great. Okay. So go on. There you go. As a result of the quarrel, go ahead, Zisal.
Can I just say something before?
No.
Okay. You're the boss. As a result of the quarrel, Rabbi Yohanan was offended, which in turn affected Reish Lakish, who fell ill.
Right. So what happens to both of them? Yeah, Rabbi Yochanan feels like mad and offended, and Reish Lakish, who does respect his teacher, gets upset. And go on, Zisel, with the next line.
Rabbi Yohanan's sister, who was Reish Lakish's wife, came crying to Rabbi Yohanan, begging that he pray for Reish Lakish's recovery. She said to him, do this for the sake of my children, so that they should have a father. Rabbi Yohanan said...
Okay, let's stop right there. Stop. So now we know what? She actually married the guy, right? That's the first part of the text that tells us what happened. And she cares for him. And she goes to her brother and says, come on. This is family. This is my husband. He's getting sick because of this. It's yes? This has to be going on for many years. I don't know. Oh, no, you mean her marriage? Yes, this is years later. I thought you meant the quarrel had been going on for many years, and that's no. Yeah.
If anybody's seen the movie Avalon, this is a you cut the turkey moment.
If anybody's seen the movie Avalon, this is a you cut the turkey moment. Okay. You'll have to tell me about that after. The whole family broke up over the turkey?
No, the turkey was cut before the matriarch got
Oh, I see. Okay.
You cut that turkey?
All right.
To see Avalon.
So just read a little bit more. Was anybody else in line to read? I don't want to be rude, but I do want to go through the text. So just read a little bit more, Zisel.
Rabbi Yohanan said to her, the verse, leave your fatherless children, I will rear them. That is to say, I will take care of them. She said to him, do so for the sake of my widowhood, he said to her, the rest of the verse, and let your widows trust in me.
So, what is Talmud telling us that Rabbi Yochanan felt when his sister was coming and begging him? He did not care. But what does he give her in response? He uses text, because he's a text-based person, to tell her, oh, it's okay, I'll take care of you, which is no answer whatsoever, right? So, so now, thank you, Cecil. And I'll continue and finish. Thank you all four of you who have read the text. So, ultimately, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, what happens? He dies. And Rabbi Yochanan was sorely pained over losing him. Terribly, terribly upset over the death of Reish Lakish.
But Rabbi,
Yes?
kind of confusing. He says Rabbi Simon ben Lakish means Rabbi Simon was the son of Lakish, or Reish Lakish. Ben Lakish?
Yeah. His actual long name is Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Reish is something that comes from Rabbi Shimon. It's an abbreviation. So Reish is Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan did not pray for him, Susie said. So this guy, Reish Lakish, who's just doing what he was taught to do, to stand up for him, to stand up, to say the law, whatever, he dies from the pain of this experience. And then Rabbi Yochanan gets very upset, and the rabbis say, who will go and calm Rabbi Yochanan's mind and comfort him over this loss? And they said, let Rabbi Elazar ben Padat go, as his statements are sharp. What does that mean? He's a smart guy. He's clever, and he'll be able to serve as a substitute for Reish Lakish. So Rabbi Elazar ben Padat went and sat before Rabbi Yochanan, and with regard to every matter that Rabbi Yochanan would say, Rabbi Elazar ben Padat would say to him, there is a ruling which is taught in a Baraita that supports your opinion. Now, I'm doing this voice on purpose. Yes, Rabbi Yochanan, there is a ruling in a Baraita that supports your opinion. What kind of response, how do you read that response of Rabbi Elazar ben Padat? A yes man, right? So he's sitting there with Rabbi Yochanan. He's supposed to be the scholar that's supposed to bring him out of his funk because he's so sad about Reish Lakish. But the guy is chicken to actually say to Rabbi Yochanan, nah, I don't agree. So that's what that story is. So, hold on, yes.
Was Rabbi Yochanan well known for losing his temper?
Rabbi Yochanan is a quirky person who you'll get to know even better. I don't know if he's known for always losing his temper. So can you imagine Rabbi Yochanan's already kind of nuts from this? Rabbi Yochanan says to him, are you comparable to the son of Lakish? In my discussions with the son of Lakish, when I would state a matter, he would raise 24 difficulties against me in an attempt to disprove my claim. And I would answer him with 24 answers. And the halakha by itself would be broadened and clarified. So now what is Rabbi Yochanan saying about the relationship with Reish Lakish?
They were great friends.
They were good and they were friends, but they were also a good match for each other, right? Now, that doesn't mean that Rabbi Yochanan didn't think he was always right. He always thought he was right. But he respected the opportunity to have a person next to him where he would bring up 24 things and Reish Lakish would bring up, and they would have an argument or a discussion about it. And it was somebody who was more of an equal to him. Yes, a good chavruta. That's a study partner. And yet you say to me, everybody, like, there's a ruling which is taught in a baraita that supports your opinion. Do I not know already that what I say is good? I know I'm right. I know I'm saying something good. Being rebutted by Reish Lakish served a purpose. Your bringing proof to my statements does not. So Rabbi Yochanan went around rending his clothes. Look, it's in black. This is what they really say. Weeping and saying, "Where are you, son of Lakish? Where are you, son of Lakish?" And Rabbi Yochanan screamed until his mind was taken from him. The rabbis prayed and requested for God to have mercy on him and take his soul, and Rabbi Yochanan died. I mean, I think I've read this text 20 times, like teaching it. And okay, so here's where people need to decide they want to say something, which is so that you can come up and get a mic. What is the meaning of this text? Say what you got out of this text. What is Talmud trying to teach us? And how fabulous it is that it allows two of its major scholars to be portrayed in what really happened to them. Anybody have anything? Come up, come up, come up, come up, come up. Come up, come up, come up, come up, come up.
Words have weight, so be careful what you say.
Words have weight, so be careful what you say. I may bring another text with regard to that. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Be careful what you say in anger.
Thank you.
I think it's in the issue of pride. The first, in the first version we hear of the conversion and that, what's his name? Yohanan? Yohanan was too prideful or too proud, and he thought he was a know-it-all, to be honest, and any question of his knowledge he did not like. And with his protege died because he was hurt. And he had been developed as a scholar himself, and here he challenges, which is what you do in Judaism. You do challenge, and you ask questions. And so he died out of... He wanted to, yeah, and he was upset. And yet with the second, the second fellow here, that he challenged Yohanan also, and they were on equal par with each other. Yohanan couldn't take it, the fact that someone did challenge him and may have been brighter than he.
Yeah. Yes. So we have a lot of lessons that the Talmud tries to teach. One of them is a text that shows up in the Talmud again that I might bring back at some point. That is called Ona'at Devarim. Ona'at Devarim means harming somebody with your words. And there is a lot written in the Talmud about that. I think that many of you might know that legend that is sometimes told at the high holidays where somebody says a lot of things about people, says things all the way throughout the year about people, and what the rabbi says is take a pillow, a feather pillow, open it up and scatter it, and then the person has to go and collect all the feathers in the room as part of the lesson for what happens, what blows around when you say things that you shouldn't be saying to other people. I'm sorry. So this is tremendously important in Jewish life. But there are also relationship issues here, and I think that part of that was said. The relationship issue is we're always in our lives going to have a time when we're the leader and somebody else is the follower, or we are the person who educates somebody else, who brings them to different times in their lives. We have this is a family situation as well as a teacher to pupil situation. And so it gives us a message about the kinds of humility we need to come to relationships with, to be able to say we don't always know the answer, even if somebody has learned from us, learned from us. One second, you're next, Joette. Gotcha here.
Thank you. So what about the children? Who's taking care of the children? Rabbi Yochanan's dead, right?
Rabbi Yochanan's dead. He's not the one who has all the children in this story. Reish Lakish's wife, his sister, she's the one left standing, right?
He said he would take care of her children.
Yeah. But it's not out of the question in Jewish law for women to inherit, so let's assume she was able to take care of her children. Joette.
Is it possible at the end that Rabbi Yochanan is sort of attempting repentance? That he's saying, where are you, Reish Lakish, and possibly taking on the responsibility that he had in Reish Lakish's illness. And therefore, he himself ends up with an illness like Reish Lakish because of what he had done to Reish Lakish.
That's interesting. That's possibly true. What happens to Rabbi Yochanan? What's his realization? He never says in the text that he realizes that he was wrong. However, well, let's talk about it with Ben Padat, he's in this study place with Ben Padat, and he comes to realize, what does he come to realize about his relationship?
That they helped each other.
That they helped each other, and they respected each other. So I think maybe you're right, Joette. I think maybe you are.
I think it goes back to Rabbi Yochanan not being willing to pray for Reb Lakish when he got ill, because his wife appealed to him on a family basis. And I think he felt very, very guilty.
And he dies of guilt. Yeah, thank you. These are all very, very, very good reflections. I hope that you, like I, take a look at a text like this and see how valuable they are. I mean, it is true. I'm teaching a class on the Jerusalem Talmud and relation to the Babylonian Talmud on Shabbat afternoons every other week. And it's true that the Babylonian Talmud runs on in words. When you're studying a piece of Talmud, for a lot of different reasons, they get off track and they go and do a number of other discussions, and sometimes it's pages and pages and pages until they get back to the original discussion, which is human, right? They're recording what humans did. But it's very, very meaningful, and so I'll leave you with this today. Feel free to keep the text if you want it. Melinda? I'll repeat you. One thing that we are taught as teachers is that we learn more from our students than our students learn from their teachers. Okay, right. We learn more from our students. So, yes. But we also all, all have been in a Yochanan position at some time in our life where we feel like challenged in our role, where we feel we feel ego. No human being has ever gone through life without ego. It's just that Rabbi Yochanan has quite a bit of it, which we will see again next week with the next text in a very funny way. So I hope you're enjoying this. Please give feedback, because I want to make sure that you like what we do. So, what? Did I? Yes, I once did. It doesn't hurt to see it again, though, right? Yes, and everybody is welcome to come on Saturday afternoons at 1 o'clock if you want to study the Jerusalem Talmud. Oh, please don't leave. I really need to make, we're going to do Hatikva before we leave, but I also, please let me just make an announcement. This is really important. On November 19th, here at Adat Ariel, we're going to have a mitzvah evening for Israel. If you have not seen the material that's come out for this, please look for it. Maybe, Susie, I'll ask you to send it out to everybody in it. Okay, so we are having an evening where for an hour we're going to have a number of different Israeli organizations who are here, so you can learn more about where you can give money. But at 7 o'clock, we have an incredible performer and teacher coming. His name is Joel Chasnoff. He's a comedian who's an American Israeli, very, very well respected. He's really funny. But in addition, he's going to talk about living in Ra'anana, the experience of being an American Israeli in this time, and also what it was like when he was in the tank corps, when he was an Israeli soldier. He's hilarious. It's time for us to have a little bit of levity, fun, that mingles with the fact that he'll answer questions and he'll be available for us that evening. He is absolutely lovely, and he's written 4 incredible books, and so it is on November 19th, Sunday evening. We have a dinner that you can sign up for. However, every penny of what the cost of the show is, which is $36 a person, every penny of it is going to Israeli organizations. Nothing is being taken in as a profit for the congregation or anything else. So you will get a wonderful evening of entertainment and opportunity to learn, and you can choose to buy dinner if you'd like. It's going to be a wonderful, very elegant falafel dinner with desserts and all of that.
How do we get the information in writing?
Did you, I'm sure you did. If you're an Adat Ariel member.
I'm not a member.
Oh, okay. So, Susie, will you send it out to everybody on your MID list? Okay. If you're in High Neighbors, you should probably be getting that as well. I think that it's been sent out. But please don't let it go by. It's a wonderful opportunity. I was very lucky to get him, and then after that, because he was coming to the United States at just the right time, and after that, he is booked everywhere around the United States now. So, yes.
$200 a ticket in New York to see him perform.
$200 a ticket to see him perform in New York. So he's a very good comedian. It would be a huge mistake not to come to this event. And everything will serve only Israel. So that's it. Susie, I'll get it to you today. Can you just forward it on to your list? What? Do you still have the link and the, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now let's rise for Hatikva. I don't know, we should. I looked around the room now and we don't. Okay, thank you. I'll ask. We may just have to put one up on the wall or something. Kolod balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulfatei Mizrach kadima ayin litzion Sophia Olo avda tikvatenu hatikva shnat apayim liodam chovshi be'artzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim liodam chovshi be'artzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim. Have a peaceful rest of your week.
You do the same, Rabbi.
I know, I no longer really have time to do it because I have another person